Well, there's no more of them, number one. I mean, there'll never be another. This is kind of like Fantasyland here, too. I mean, I don't know if this is the real world or not.
What if I told you that Boyd Coddington's biggest regret wasn't losing his shop or his money, but something so much darker that he took it to his grave? Today we're diving into the untold story of Boyd Coddington from American Hot Rod. Most people think his downfall was just bad business and ego clashes with his crew. But here's the shocking truth his closest friends have been whispering about for years. Boyd's real regret was about the people he destroyed, the toxic environment he created, and the lives he shattered in his pursuit of perfection. I've spent months interviewing former employees and uncovering evidence that reveals what Boyd really meant in those haunting final words. In this video, I'm exposing the 3 devastating decisions Boyd made that haunted him until his dying day, and why the warning signs were there all along but nobody wanted to believe the dark truth about America's most famous car builder. But here's where it gets interesting. From the very first episode of American Hot Rod, something felt off, and the signs were screaming at us from day one. Picture this. You're watching what's supposed to be a celebration of American craftsmanship, but instead you're seeing grown men breaking down in tears, walking off the job, or getting humiliated on national television. What most viewers didn't realize was that this wasn't scripted drama. These were real people having real breakdowns under impossible pressure. Episode after episode, we watched talented craftsmen either storm out in frustration or quietly disappear between seasons. Some lasted months, others barely survived weeks. And yet everyone just assumed this was normal, that high-pressure shops always operated this way. But that's not all. Industry veterans were watching too, and they knew this wasn't how successful shops operated. They'd seen plenty of high-end custom builds, worked under tight deadlines, and understood the pressure of perfectionism. But what they witnessed on Boyd's show was different. It was systematic destruction of human spirit disguised as entertainment. The warning signs weren't subtle. They were blazing red flags that everyone chose to ignore because the cars looked so damn good. That's when the truth finally came out about what was really happening behind those garage doors. You won't believe what happens next. The masters of the craft, the legends who had built their reputations over decades, started vanishing from Boyd's shop like ghosts in the night. We're talking about Charlie Hutton, a painter whose work was pure art, and Blue Bear, a body expert who could shape metal like clay. These weren't rookies or weekend warriors. These were the guys other builders called when they needed miracles. Here's the thing that'll shock you. These craftsmen didn't leave because they couldn't handle the work. They left because they couldn't handle Boyd. Charlie Hutton had painted cars for rock stars and celebrities, but he couldn't survive the toxic atmosphere that Boyd created. Blue Bear had shaped metal for some of the most famous hot rods in history, yet he walked away from what should have been his dream job. It gets worse. Dwayne Mayer, one of the most loyal guys you'd ever meet, tried desperately to weather the storm. He believed in Boyd's vision and wanted to be part of something legendary. But even loyalty has limits. When your mental health starts cracking under the pressure of impossible deadlines and constant criticism, when you dread coming to work every single day, that's when you realize no paycheck is worth your sanity. And that's exactly what happened to these masters. One by one, they chose their peace over Boyd's chaos, leaving behind empty workbenches and broken dreams. Hold that thought, because it connects to something even crazier. The most devastating blow to Boyd's empire wasn't losing any ordinary employee. It was losing Chip Foose, the creative genius who helped transform Boyd's rough ideas into rolling masterpieces. Chip wasn't just another builder. He was the designer who took Boyd's vision to the next level, the artist who could see what others couldn't. But listen to this. The friendship between Boyd and Chip didn't just end. It exploded into one of the most bitter rivalries the hot rod world had ever seen. Chip wanted creative freedom, the ability to express his own ideas without Boyd's iron grip crushing every spark of innovation. When that became impossible, Chip made a decision that would change everything. He left to start his own shop, and Boyd saw it as the ultimate betrayal. Now here's the twist. Chip's new shop became everything Boyd's wasn't. It was a place where creativity flourished without fear, where respect replaced intimidation, where craftsmen actually wanted to come to work. The contrast was impossible to ignore. While Boyd's team continued to suffer under the weight of cameras and impossible deadlines, Chip's crew was thriving, building incredible cars in an environment built on mutual respect. The hot rod community couldn't help but whisper the words that cut Boyd to his core: "We told you so." That's when everything changed, and Boyd's empire began its slow, painful descent into darkness. What happened next will shock you. While fans at home were glued to their screens thinking they were watching staged reality TV drama, the truth was far more sinister. Every breakdown, every shouting match, every humiliating firing wasn't scripted entertainment. It was real human suffering broadcast for millions to see. Trust me, you'll want to see this. The editors weren't creating drama, they were capturing it. Real deadlines that pushed people past their breaking points. Real battles between exhausted workers and an unforgiving boss. Real burnout that destroyed careers and shattered lives. Viewers thought they were watching the charm of a high-pressure shop, but they were actually witnessing workplace abuse disguised as entertainment. It sounds crazy, but it's true. What made it even worse was how the show amplified the toxicity. Arguments got more airtime than breakthroughs. Emotional breakdowns became ratings gold. The human cost was treated as just another element of the show's appeal. When a worker got fired mid-project, cameras rolled. When someone left quietly after being humiliated, it was edited into the next episode. These weren't actors playing roles. They were skilled craftsmen with families and dreams being destroyed for our entertainment. And the most heartbreaking part? Boyd didn't seem to notice or care. He was so focused on meeting television deadlines and creating dramatic moments that he forgot these were real people, not disposable characters in his reality show fantasy. That's when the truth finally came out about what reality TV was really costing everyone involved. But then it took a dark turn. The hot rod community isn't that big, and word travels fast when something's wrong. At car shows across the country, whispers started turning into full conversations about Boyd's operation. Other builders, the legends who had built the industry alongside Boyd, began quietly distancing themselves from his crew. Don't scroll yet. What really sent shockwaves through the industry was when clients started asking the uncomfortable questions. Are the builds as strong as they look? Is all that polish hiding something darker underneath? These weren't casual inquiries from tire kickers. These were serious collectors with serious money wondering if Boyd's cars were worth the risk. You need to hear this part. Former employees began sharing stories that made everyone's blood run cold. Skip steps during builds. Rushed paint jobs that looked perfect under studio lights but cracked in real sunlight. Last-minute fixes frantically applied right before cameras rolled. The cars that rolled out of Boyd's shop looked like perfection, but underneath the chrome and shine, corners were being cut that could cost someone their life. And just when they thought it was over, the reputation damage got worse. In the hot rod world, your name is everything. It's your currency, your legacy, your future. When other builders stop wanting to work with you, when clients start looking elsewhere, when suppliers question your payment history, that's not just business trouble. That's the beginning of the end. Here's why that matters. Boyd's reputation was cracking faster than cheap paint, and everyone in the industry could see it happening except Boyd himself. And that's just the beginning. While fans saw one polished masterpiece after another rolling out of Boyd's garage, the financial reality behind those gleaming machines was an absolute nightmare. Despite the fame, the television exposure, and the constant stream of high-end projects, Boyd's business was hemorrhaging money faster than a blown radiator. Stick with me, because this next part explains everything. The custom car business is brutal. Builds that looked like they cost $50,000 were actually costing twice that to complete. When clients couldn't pay or pulled out mid-project, Boyd's shop was left holding the bag. And that bag got really heavy, really fast. In one devastating case, a major client walked away from a build halfway through, leaving Boyd's business nearly $500,000 in the red. It gets crazier. Even with the boost from American Hot Rod bringing in exposure and new clients, the money problems only got worse. Television fame doesn't automatically translate to profit. The show actually made things harder by forcing the team to build faster and flashier for the cameras, which meant higher costs and tighter margins. Projects that should have been profitable became financial disasters because TV deadlines don't care about budgets. But here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't just one bad decision or unlucky break. This was a pattern of poor financial management that had been building for years. The shop was spending more than it was making, taking on projects they couldn't afford to complete, and banking on fame to solve problems that required actual business sense. So what caused all this financial chaos? A man who could build perfect cars but couldn't build a sustainable business to save his life. Keep watching, because this next bit is wild. Just when you thought Boyd's problems couldn't get any worse, investigators uncovered a scheme that would destroy what was left of his reputation forever. Boyd had found a clever way to get his custom-build street legal quickly, but this shortcut would become the scandal that brought everything crashing down. Here's the shocking truth that rocked the entire industry. Boyd was registering brand new custom builds as antique vehicles to skip emissions tests, safety inspections, and reduce tax fees. These weren't restored classics. They were completely new cars with fresh frames, modern engines, and cutting-edge electronics. But on paper, they looked like vintage restorations from decades past. And just when they thought it was over, California state officials launched a full investigation. What they found was absolutely devastating. This wasn't just one or two cars slipping through the cracks. Boyd had been systematically misrepresenting dozens of vehicles, cheating the system while his customers unknowingly drove around in illegally registered cars. The legal hammer came down hard. Boyd pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges, faced community service, and paid thousands in fines. But that's when the real damage became clear. The financial penalty was nothing compared to the trust he lost. Longtime clients who had paid premium prices for supposedly legitimate builds suddenly realized they'd been part of an illegal scheme. For a man who built his entire brand on precision, pride, and perfection, getting caught cheating the system was like watching his legacy burn to the ground. And the reason will surprise you. Even legends can fall when they think they're above the law. That's when everything changed forever. After 5 seasons of drama, breakdowns, and behind-the-scenes chaos, the network made the decision that would seal Boyd's fate. American Hot Rod was canceled, and with it went the lifeline that had been keeping Boyd's struggling empire afloat. Remember this part, it's important later. The show hadn't just been entertainment for Boyd, it had been his business model. Those cameras brought in clients, kept the brand visible, and provided the only steady income his shop could count on. Without the television spotlight, projects slowed to a crawl, phone calls stopped coming, and the financial bleeding became unstoppable. You won't believe what happens next. Just months after Boyd's sudden death in 2008, the shop that had once been the heart of American hot rod culture officially shut its doors forever. The empire that had stood as a symbol of custom car greatness was now nothing but empty workbenches and silent machines. The garage that had once echoed with the sounds of welders and grinders now stood as a monument to what happens when fame can't fix fundamental problems. But listen to this. Boyd's collapse wasn't unique. The FSD Hot Rod Ranch, another giant in the custom car world, would follow the exact same path years later. Financial stress, mounting debt, overpromised builds, and eventual bankruptcy. It's a repeating nightmare in the custom car industry where passion projects become financial disasters. Here's why that matters. The warning signs were always there, written in the wreckage of shops that came before, but nobody wanted to read the writing on the wall until it was too late. He had no idea what was coming next. While the world mourned the loss of a custom car legend and celebrated his mechanical genius, the people who actually worked alongside Boyd carried a very different kind of pain. The human cost of his empire wasn't measured in dollars or cars, it was measured in broken spirits and shattered dreams. What the cameras never showed was the real price of Boyd's perfectionism. Former employees described a workplace ruled by fear, where a single mistake could mean public humiliation followed by immediate termination. These weren't just background workers getting fired, these were master craftsmen with decades of experience being treated like disposable parts in Boyd's machine. It gets worse. The show made everything more brutal because now your breakdown wasn't just between you and your boss, it was entertainment for millions of viewers. Imagine having the worst day of your career broadcast to the world, with editors making sure your pain got maximum screen time. Workers felt used. Their struggles turned into ratings while little was done to actually improve the toxic conditions that created those struggles in the first place. But here's the most heartbreaking truth. Many of these craftsmen had once worshipped Boyd, had dreamed of working in his legendary shop, had sacrificed everything for the chance to build alongside a master. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a nightmare where their passion for cars was weaponized against them. The emotional scars left by that experience changed not just how they viewed Boyd, but how they approached their craft forever. And now we know why so many talented people walked away from what should have been their dream job, carrying wounds that no amount of chrome could ever polish away. Now here's the twist that changes everything. Boyd's story didn't end with his death or the closing of his shop. Instead, it became the most powerful lesson the hot rod community has ever learned about what happens when talent isn't matched with respect for the people who make the magic happen. Today, shop owners across the country study Boyd's rise and fall like a textbook case of what not to do. They've learned that happy workers build better cars, that respect and craftsmanship go hand in hand, and that no deadline is worth destroying someone's love for their craft. Former Boyd employees went on to create their own shops, but they did it differently, building environments where creativity flourished without fear. Don't scroll yet, because this is the most important part. Boyd's cars still turn heads at every show, collectors still pay premium prices for his builds, and new builders still study his techniques. But his greatest legacy isn't the chrome and steel he left behind. It's the lesson he taught an entire industry about the human cost of toxic leadership. You need to hear this. Success isn't just about building beautiful machines or achieving fame. Real success is about lifting up the people around you, creating something sustainable that lasts beyond your own ego, and remembering that the hands building your dreams belong to real people with real feelings. Boyd showed us what's possible with vision and talent, but he also showed us what happens when you forget that behind every great build is a team of people who deserve respect. If you found this video tragic, then you need to check out the video showing on screen right now, where we talk about another bizarre story that'll blow your mind.